I've picked up this old 1953 DB30. It's not running, I had to winch it on the trailer. I just bought it for parts really. The rims are in fairly good condition and they'll fit the old David Brown 25 I got a while ago. These ones are pretty far gone. Big chunks of rust coming off them. If I can replace those, it'll be worth the $200 I paid for it, I think. The other thing I needed was this exhaust manifold, but it looks like the top part of it's broken, so I don't know how useful that'll be. It's been wired on there and been leaking pretty bad. So it's just sort of wobbling around. It's got a front end loader which isn't working. I don't know how long that's been out of action. It's got a trip bucket here. You just pull the wire and it dumps the load. But that's not working. It's been chained up just to keep it off the ground. So I did try to get it running. I put some fuel in it and put some coolant in the radiator. The radiator has a big hole in the middle somewhere, so that leaks straight out. And also I noticed the coolant plug on the block is missing, so I don't know how long it's been running without coolant in the block. Could have cooked the engine at some stage. Might have a blown head gasket or worse. But I'll see if I can get it going. They are quite simple engines, so if it's not totally ruined, it might fire. So it's pouring out there. But it's not coming out of the drain plug, which was missing. So I'll try pushing some water up there and see what happens. It's going in. It's coming out dirty. I suppose I'll just try and find a plug for that and see if it holds coolant. So it must have just had an obstruction in there, and when I forced water up it cleared it. Alright, I found this plastic plug which might fit. Yep, I think that'll do it. Alright, that should seal it up. Put some water in there and see if it holds. That seems to be holding the water in. The only problem is now this leak in the radiator. I'll see if I can get it running first and just keep topping it up. If it runs, I'll try and patch up that leak. But no point putting too much time into the radiator until I know it's going to run. It was almost blocking up that inlet hole. I'll turn that tap on again and see if it flushes out. Seems to be flowing out of there now. Well, that wouldn't have been helping. Oh, there was a big plug in there. That should go better now. Pretty sure that's blocked. See, that flew out of it. That's better, I can see through that one now, so that might make a difference. I'll just put a bit of silicone gasket on there just to stop any bits getting in. I don't want any of this gasket getting into the carburetor, so I'll just put a very fine layer on there, just enough to seal it up really. Wipe off any excess from the inside. That should be enough. When it gets enough fuel in the bowl, that rises and pushes on that little valve, and that should shut off the petrol. So we'll just blow on that and make sure it's working. Maybe leaking a little bit. Can't really take that apart, I don't think. Looks like it's pressed in there. That seems to have helped. That's sealing well now. There should be some sort of gasket in there, because it's metal on metal isn't really going to seal it very well. I'll make sure I get all the excess off here so it doesn't get into the fuel system, because that would clog things up. This when I poured fuel in the other day, it just came leaking straight back out again. So hopefully that will seal it up and keep the fuel in there. Like it might have been sucking air in as well if fuel was leaking out. Just put a bit of oil on those pivots. Make them go a bit smoother. Yeah, that's better. Freed up a little bit now. Alright, that's ready to go back on. I'll take that fuel bowl off and give it a clean out. Maybe a bit of rainwater's got on the tank. It looks like it's half full of water. And all sorts of other goodies. I think that's just water. And rust or whatever that is. That was filthy. Give that tank a flush out now. Make sure there's no more water and crud in there. Quite a bit of water in the petrol. And some crud in the bottom, so I'll give that a good flush out and then fill it with clean petrol. Okay, I've flushed out the fuel tank, run it through with clean petrol, so I'll put some fresh fuel in there now and see how it looks. I'll add some upper cylinder lubricant. These old engines are designed to run on leaded fuel. It's basically a lead substitute. That's coming through nice and clean now, so that should be much better. I'll put that fuel on and see if there's any leaks. No leaks there. I notice there's big crack in that intake, so I'll put a bit of tape around that for now, and also on this end. Yep, that's got oil. Looks fairly clean too. That'll be okay. Perfect. I'll just put a little drop of oil in each cylinder, just to lube it up a wee bit. Might help with the compression as well, because it hasn't been running for years. Oh, that one's pretty filthy. Yep, that's sparking. That's 2 out of 4. Yep, that's sparking as well. Looking good. Perfect. So we've got spark on all 4 plugs, and I can tell they're getting fuel as well because a few of them had petrol on them, so it should start now unless there's any major problems. I'll just top up that radiator again. I see it's dry. It's all leaked out. So first of all, I'll patch up that radiator. It's just dumping all the water out within a couple of minutes, so it might be possible to solder that up. So I'll pull that off and have a good look at it. You can see where it's leaking right in the middle there. So if that's the only leak, I should just be able to solder that up. Maybe. Alright, I tried soldering up the cores. They've sealed alright, but what I've found is there's more leaks further down here, so and in here. So I'd end up having to rip all this out. And go further up there. There's more up there as well, so I think I'll admit defeat on this one and just pull the radiator out of the David Brown 25, because I know that's a good one, and I'm just chasing my tail here. I'd end up having to take that whole centre part out, and then it's not going to be doing much cooling, so I think I'll take this one to the recyclers and call it quits on it. Notice there is a couple of holes in the exhaust manifolds down there that I couldn't quite get, so there's also some around the back there. It's quite badly eaten away. I don't know if you can see that. I won't be able to weld those up because it's just not sticking. It's just too thin, I think. So what I'll do is try this JB Extreme Heat paste and see if that works. I've never tried it before, so it'll be interesting to see how it works. Let's give it a good clean up first, get all that dust off there. There's also a hole up in there which might be just too big, but we'll try it anyway. It'll be a good test of this paste, JB weld. If it does that, it'll do anything. There's really not a lot in there, eh? It's only half full. But anyway, if it does the job, it'll be worth getting. So because that is such a big hole there, I don't think I'll be able to fill it just with the filler, so I've made a little metal plate here, which I'll put the paste on the inside of that and just push it on there, and hopefully that'll seal it up. First of all, I'll give it a bit of a sand down just to make sure it sticks well. I'm not proud of that repair, but it might hold together until I can figure out if the engine's worth persevering with. We'll see. Possibly just a waste of time. It just feels like sandy putty. That seems to have hardened up pretty well. So it'd be interesting to see how that holds on. It doesn't seem like it's going to be very strong, but worth a try, I suppose. Nothing to lose. I don't know how strong that weld is going to be. I didn't use special rods or anything. I'll just wrap some wire around that just in case that weld cracks. At least it'll still hold it in place. It ain't pretty. At least that should hold it in place until I can figure out if it's worth spending any money on this engine. So the hydraulics don't seem to work at all. I had the same trouble with the David Brown 25, they were only barely lifting, so the way I solved that was to clean out the hydraulic filter, which is down under there. And that was so clogged up that the hydraulic oil wasn't getting through. None of the hydraulics were working, so I'll try cleaning that out and hopefully it's just the same thing. I'll try and empty all the oil out of those rams before I drain it, just to get as much old oil out of the system as possible. Oh yeah, that did it. Well, that filter is pretty much fully clogged up, so we'll give that a good clean out and see if that helps. I think it's been under so much pressure that it's broken it. That's not ideal. Oh, that's actually broken off. that spring. So this is just a magnet with a spring over it to catch the metal filings in the oil. So I'll give this a bit of a clean in diesel, see how it comes up. There's a seal that slipped down inside there. Poor man's ultrasonic cleaner. I'll give that a bit of a degrease and then see if I can solder it. Alright, solder's not really sticking on there, so I might try brazing it. It's not pretty, but it is holding. It might be alright. I couldn't really heat it up too much, otherwise it would just eat away at the mesh because it's so fine, but it has actually fixed it. I think that'll do the job. That's ready to go on now. Nice and clean. Because this spring is broken down here, the filter won't be pushing on evenly, so I can't really reattach that. So what I'll do is I'll get another little spring and just put it in that corner, and that'll just help push it upwards. That's a pretty similar sort of tension as these other springs. Perfect. Nice even tension now. The oil. That's looking good, right on the high line. Alright, we'll see if that makes any difference to the hydraulics. Oh, that's brilliant. They're working perfectly. Not too much leakage there. Just a little bit of weeping, but I can probably tighten those up. Once again, it was just a clogged up hydraulic filter. The David Brown 25 was pretty much the same, just clogged up. It must be quite a common problem there with them. Pretty easy fix, really. So now I know everything works, really, and I think it's probably worth going a bit further with it, so I'll change the oil and do that filter and give it a try. Hey buddy. Good boy. I don't like sharing. I'll change that engine oil. It's looking pretty black. What the hell? It's not even coming out. Man, that hasn't been changed for years, I'd say. There's a bit of water in there. Oh, yuck. Look at the state of that. Disgusting. Oh, she's gonna go. Ah. Oh man, that's disgusting. Poor old thing. Oh wow, there's all sorts of shit in there. Little chunks of hard things. Hopefully not metal fragments. I think there's an oil pickup there. Oh yeah, there we go. So that's the intake filter. Pretty filthy. I'll give that a good clean up. That was sitting in like an inch of sludge at the bottom. So it's a wonder it was getting any oil at all around the engine. That's a lot better, you can actually see through the mesh now. Alright, I'll change that oil filter now. Man, that's an old style filter. Just half filled the oil filter housing with oil and putting the new filter in there. That way it won't be running dry. That's the front axle pivot. I think that should have a grease nipple on there, so I'll try and see if I can replace it. That's the front axle pivot. I think that should have a grease nipple on there, so I'll try and see if I can replace it. That's the front axle pivot. I think that should have a grease nipple on there, so I'll try and see if I can replace it. That's the front axle pivot. I think that should have a grease nipple on there, so I'll try and see if I can replace it. That'll do it. Alright, I think that's all I can do for now. Let's see if the old girl can still do a hard day's work. There's a nice crown on the road now, so the water can go to either side of the track. Much better. I wasn't actually that confident the high temperature paste would work, but look at that, it's actually holding after a couple of solid hours work. Quite amazed by that actually, because that was a fairly big hole. That's impressive. And that one as well. That's holding on too. Brilliant. Oh well, it held together alright. It's definitely more work than using a more modern tractor, but it gets the job done. I do miss having a diff lock though. When one wheel starts spinning, you can't really do much about it. whereas with a more modern tractor you just stomp on the diff lock and it crawls its way out. So I think it's probably too good to use for parts. We'll have to hold on to this one, I think.